Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bad and the Worst, a podcast where we watch movie trilogies and figure out which movie can't handle 3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime. Joining me today...
I'm Luke Morgan.
Now dig on this.
And I'm Conan, sir, Conan Brock Jr. And you know what? I'm something of a podcaster myself.
Of course, it's Spider-Man time, boys. The meme Spider-Man, the Raimi Trilogy. How did we go watching the Raimi Trilogy again, boys?
I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I don't know. I loved these films growing up, and like we sort of talked about it earlier, we're gonna get there's a lot of memes in these movies, and a lot of stuff that is either intentionally or very non-intentionally hilarious to me in these movies.
Yep.
Yeah, they're very funny. Despite I don't know if they want to be so funny. And the first and third feel like they're pretty different. And the second one I think is again like in a league ahead of the rest. But they're still really fun. Like despite my tirade last week about how I hate Marvel and everything Marvel does, you know, I enjoyed myself this. I was like, yeah, Marvel was cool back in the day.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is before the Disney Marvel, right? This is before the Marvel that has engulfed everything around it. Boys, Spider-Man 1 was the first movie I ever owned on DVD. I watched that thing to death. I really loved that movie. It was a huge part of my early high school years. And Peter Parker was going through the same stuff as me, even though he looked like he was in his 30s.
Because he was basically in his 30s.
Yeah.
Oh man, this might, I don't know, I feel like this is one of the last movies where they had middle-aged people playing high schoolers. I feel like you don't get that as much anymore.
And we're worse for it, you know. There were better times when the 15-year-olds had stubble.
Yeah, had a 5 o'clock shadow. Yeah,
good time.
Well, see, I'm pretty sure the Spider-Man 1 movie soundtrack was my first CD I owned, because I just remember listening to Hero all the time,
that song
over
came on
and over again.
I forgot Nickelback was in this movie, and hey, I wish I did too.
I think I had this VHS, and I think it was red or something, or there's something different about it. It wasn't like a normal VHS cassette, and that was super cool. And yeah, at the end of the credits, Nickelback, the Hero music video came on. I was like, just put my hands up, you know, and
it's such a good song.
Light a candle and sway. It was great.
It's really not a good song.
It so is.
But there's this. Watching this film now, it's the first one has got a lot more cringe in it than I remember. But I loved it so much as a kid. Yep. I remember this was the first film that I saw in the cinema at night time. So it's 2002. I was in year 3 at the time, and so I don't know.
Jeez, I'm old.
What are you when you're in year 3? You're 9 or something. I don't know, 9 or 10. And so never went to cinema with my friends because I was still a kid. And I just remember when this came out, I was so excited. I was like, Dad, I need to see Spider-Man. Please take me. And to his credit, he was like, we'll go one of the nights it opens. I think it was even a weeknight, which is the shocking part. So at 7 o'clock, went to the cinema, the night screening there in our small cinema. And it was the most exciting thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's sad or not.
No. These movies, I don't know. I had a huge attachment to Spider-Man as a younger kid. I would always get up really early and watch Cheese TV, and they had that 90s Spider-Man cartoon, which was freaking awesome. It was really well done, and just have loved Spider-Man ever since. And then, these movies were the first really, in my opinion, really good superhero movies.
They were.
They definitely brought over some of the camp of the 90s Batman films, but they're, in my opinion, they're the first good superhero movie.
Hot take, I think Spider-Man 2 is arguably the best superhero film.
Dude.
That's a huge call.
Dude,
it is. I
will say, watching Spider-Man 2, there was several times watching it where I was like, man, this holds up.
Yeah.
This movie is so good. And I enjoyed number 1 as well, but I didn't have that thought of this is a really good film. Number 1 is very much man, I remember watching this as a kid. It's just that nostalgia thing as well, and enjoying it for the campiness and stuff like that. But yeah,
for sure. And even if you say it's not the best film, I think there's an argument to be had that it's the most important superhero film. And just and how it sort of created how it essentially created what would become the superhero mold and what would become like what it opened doors for what would become the MCU and just created a standard for superhero films that wasn't entirely campy, that did actually have depth to it, and you know, huge blockbuster, huge success, made it all reminded the world that superheroes are profitable, which we now know all too well.
Mm.
Yep.
Well, talking about whether it's profitable, do you guys want to hear some stats?
Stats.
All right,
Yeah.
Spider-Man 1, budget of 139 million, made 825 million worldwide. That's a pretty good increase. $200 million budget for Spider-Man 2 made 788 million.
Oh, wow.
Made less than the first movie. And then Spider-Man 3, $258 million budget, made 894 million.
Oh,
So 2 did the
Spider-Man 2.
worst.
2 did the worst at the box office.
Wow.
I mean, it's not a huge margin, but it's like the third worst Spider-Man performing film ever. It's like right in the middle, I guess.
What was happening in 2004? Was everyone seeing something else? Was there a party on?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I probably could have done the research to see what else came out at the same time, but
That is really shocking.
It is, and usually sequels do better in the box office than the first movie.
Yeah.
This one really breaks the mold in that way, and it's also, I mean, I don't think there's any argument that it is the best of the three films. And it didn't perform that well. All right.
No.
Review scores, we'll go Metacritic. Spider-Man 1, 73. Spider-Man 2, 83. Spider-Man 3, 59. So I think they got it right there. They got it right with that one.
Nailed it.
Damn.
I was shocked looking at this that Spider-Man 2 had 83 because I knew that it was a most people liked it and thought it was a really good film, but I was expecting it just to be a bit of a critical whatever. But 83 is really high for
it's solid.
Yeah.
For Metacritic. Funny story, Spider-Man 3 was I was still young at the time, obviously, when it came out. It was one of my first ever probably my first ever and first only movie review I did on the internet on my Bebo page when I came home from Spider-Man 3, and I wrote about 2 paragraphs about how awesome the graphics were and how awesome it was that it had 3 villains.
And Emo Peter is the best Peter.
I touched on this last week, but I 100% thought Emo Peter Parker was the coolest cat in town and started draping my hair over my forehead and trying to act all
click walking.
I mean, look how popular he got with the chicks after he started doing that. So that was my mentality in high school. I was like, I'm just going to start doing this, And
the funny thing about that scene is though that like most of the chicks are not that interested in him. Like they're not that impressed by
at the start. They are.
That's what's weird. In the first part when he's not doing the strut, they're all checking him out, and then as soon as he's confident, they're just like they're all grossed out by him. It's so weird.
I mean, it's that strut, man. He takes it a bit too far.
You don't dance when you come out of clothing stores?
My favorite edit of that is just the ambient sound, like of him walking down there, and just like clapping. It's just like the noises. Oh man.
Well, yeah, there's some stuff to talk about with Spider-Man 3. All right, boys, let's slap Dennis Franz into this trilogy. Where does he fit?
He's the police commissioner in number 3. He's Gwen Stacy's father.
Yeah,
that's ripping Uncle Ben. Oh yeah, it's a good pick too.
Oh, but I love Uncle Ben.
Yeah, but he gets a role in every movie.
And Uncle Ben's the guy who played Uncle Ben is a real no-name.
He passed away. I forget how many years ago. It was so strange. We watched Spider-Man 1 and I went on Facebook and it was a Facebook memory of me being like, oh, the actor from Spider-Man 1 who played Uncle Ben passed away like several years ago, which was a strange coincidence But I really like the actor that played Uncle Ben though. I don't know. I found him I thought his performance was touching where it needed to be. But Dennis Franz, I kind of like the police commissioner in the third one. They're just, I don't know, that's typecasting. Poor Dennis Franz just gets.
He seems too old to be Gwen Stacy's dad, though.
The guy who plays her dad is old.
Yeah, I guess he is.
The babe dude.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, Dennis Franz and Gwen Stacy would have very different body types, I suppose, but still, I just think that'd be riffing on his NYPD Blue energy. It'd
just
be cool.
make him Sandman. He's Sandman.
Yeah, no, Thomas Hayden
Maybe.
Church is good. Thomas Hayden Church is really good in this.
Yeah, I actually really enjoy him in number 3. We'll get to it.
Yeah,
Does this deserve to be a trilogy?
it deserves to be one. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if they didn't pull it off, but I don't know that too much of the inner workings, because obviously at one point there was a Spider-Man 4. There's famous interviews of Tobey Maguire talking about Spider-Man 4 a few days before it was cancelled. So I don't know what the story was in that, but it really seemed like they rushed number 3 to get as much stuff in it because they thought it was going to be the last one. I feel like, I don't know. They could have did the landing a bit better, especially after such a high of Spider-Man 2. But
Yeah, I don't know too much about what the process behind it was. I think it was. I just know, that was during that era of franchise films where they're like, bigger is better, and so the more you can do with everything, the more you can please everyone,
yep.
the better it'll sell, right? And by having Venom in there and then just trying to add in all this stuff,
I mean,
like
Matrix and X-Men, like their third films were basically
X-Men third film's a good example. There's just got every character you can think of for no apparent reason besides just being like, look, it's that dude.
Yep.
Yeah, apparently the story goes is that Sam Raimi doesn't really like Venom, but Venom is a very, very popular character within the Spider-Man universe. I mean, he has his own film series going at the moment. Have you guys seen those movies at all?
I actually haven't, which is
I haven't either. Are they any good, Conan?
No, the second one's not out yet.
Okay.
It comes out
soon.
Yeah, it's coming out in October.
Yep.
The first one, it's pretty ordinary. It's because it's PG-13, and Venom really needs to be.
Is it really? I thought it was...
He needs to be savage, and so it feels very stilted. Tom Hardy's really good at it, but it's not a good film.
So to me, like, I think 3. I mean, we'll get into it, but I think 3 is nearly fixed by removing Venom. Like, that movie would be a lot better if you cut out Venom, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah.
Man. And Topher Grace is Venom to me.
Really?
No,
Topher Grace is terrible.
Look, I'll admit it. I thought Topher Grace Venom was cool when I was a teenager as well. Right. Obviously, I was going through a really weird phase in my life.
You were.
He was cool, and I thought at the time was just like, oh my god, it's Venom. But watching this, I feel like they could have done a better job of fleshing out Venom, and I feel like Sandman is really the third wheel when it comes to the villains. Like, he's just there. Like, oh, distract the police while I have my feud with Spider-Man. Oh, I'm here. Now I'm going to disappear and go into like, he's just always there in the background. Like, Spider-Man does the thing where he turns him to mud, and then he's gone for like an hour. And he just shows up again.
I feel like that's more of a way they wrote into it, though, because the first half of the film has Sandman, and Venom doesn't. He's not there. It keeps hinting.
But I mean, the symbiote is, yeah,
and it keeps hinting. It's like, we got to see something, and then it's not until the last 40 minutes that Venom actually appears.
No, there's legitimately 7 minutes of Venom. Like,
and so it's very like, you can tell that they're like it's shoehorned in. And I think cutting Sandman out for that hour is because they probably rewrote the script, and that film had a bunch of rewrites and writers. So you can tell, like, okay, let's cut this chunk, add Venom in here, and I guess that works.
I think like it benefits from either or. Like, Sandman's obviously, I think, performed better, and I think with the way they did Venom, I was more interested in finding more out about Sandman and seeing them like feud a bit. You get it at the start, and then he's just there at the end as a third wheel.
Yeah.
Either you remove Venom and expand on Sandman more, or remove Sandman completely and have it Hobgoblin and Venom.
Yeah, I think Sandman was a more interesting villain than what Venom was, but they didn't give him enough to do.
Because he has a motivation, right? Whereas Venom's motivation is, I'm going to pray to God to kill Spider-Man because he embarrassed me.
He likes being
in
bad.
A church?
Oh, it makes no sense.
So random.
I don't understand why he's in the church.
And if you believe in any sort of version of Christianity, why do you go in there and be like, God, can you kill this guy who slighted me?
It's so hilarious. This guy called me out for lying on this photo thing. Please murder him.
That's all I want.
And then Peter Parker happens to be like, man, I need to get this suit off me. I'm going to go over to that church and start ripping it off in the church. Like, it's a bit poor.
Not great.
That whole scene is super strange. So, I mean, we've said it, there's no argument. Number 3 is by far the worst of these movies.
Yeah.
Is Venom
Everyone
the only thing to blame? What else? Like, I think without Venom, you don't have to go full emo Spider-Man. Like, I do like Spider-Man having this. I like Peter being confident and that really rubbing Mary Jane the wrong way. Like, I like that conflict in their relationship. I think it's good, but I think when that turns into Peter Parker strutting down the street with his
That's the
emo,
highlight of the movie.
his emo fringe. I mean, it's kind of weird watching these movies in retrospect because they have taken on a life of their own as memes. Like,
Yeah.
sooner or later, we're going to get to Star Wars and we're going to have the same experience with the prequel trilogies.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird to go back to these movies that have taken on a cult following, a meme following, I guess you could call it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you take the third one as what it is, and it's this schlocky, just silly mess, where you can tell, I don't think anybody was really fully invested in it. You can tell Sam Raimi wasn't overly keen with what was happening, and so I think you can see in parts that's just it's meant to. I'm sure it's meant to be cringeworthy. Like that scene where he's playing the piano in Mary Jane's jazz bar.
Peter?
This is for you. Double time.
It's like straight out of Anchorman, but it's not meant to be a comedy. And so I think I can only imagine everyone there's like, guys, we're just filming something stupid because that's what the production company wants. So okay. And if you take it as that, just this really dumb, like say, like meme-filled ride, it's entertaining,
Dude,
sure.
He like rips his blazer off and it makes her hair blow back. It's weird.
Terrific.
He's like, the thing is, there's parts in number 3, like with the black suit Spidey and the symbiote. I like when he is like obsessed with listening to the police chatter thing. You know, he's got the black suit on. He's waiting for news on Sandman because he finds out that he's the one that killed Uncle Ben. And there's a call on the police thing. Like there's a man gunned down in the street, like an elderly man, and he doesn't answer the call. He sits there because he's just like, no, I'm waiting for this. And it's like, it's kind of this dark thing. And he like tells MJ off and he's waiting there. Then he goes and tracks him down. Man, he slams his face into the train and like kills him. And he's like, I forget the comment he makes, but like, good riddance. There you go.
Good riddance.
Not even badass.
I like that, where I kind of like that, where he's a bit, and he's a dick to MJ. He really is.
I think the conflict between Peter and MJ, and like I said, Peter having this overconfidence and arrogance, I guess. Like, I think that's the best parts of these movies. But you don't have to recolor the spider suit to have that.
No,
it's pretty cool.
No.
Like, it's cool. It is. I'll give you that 100%. But I mean, well, it's not that exciting though. Like, it is just a recolor. Like, they don't really go all the way with it. Like, I think you can have those conflicts without having Venom there. I don't think Venom is key to that at all.
No, they're making two different films. They're exploring the same sort of stuff, but they're making one version with Venom and the symbiote where it's a very clear representation of his duality, right? It's the same suit, but it's Dark Peter. It's like it's like in any video game you ever played. Here's all my worst sides. I have to overcome them. And so they're making that, which is a really kind of clear visual story and compelling because everyone loves Venom. But then at the same time, they're telling that story better with Sandman and the Ben Parker stuff. So by having Uncle Ben's sort of as the drama for his rage, that's almost a more interesting way to tell that story. But Venom's more explicit, I guess. And it does have that, you can lean into it, like it's cool seeing him in a black suit and, robbing, maybe doing things a bit more violent, breaking Eddie's camera, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the fact that they try to mash them together and like there's two different versions of the same film makes it very confusing.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, like the symbiote's what makes him want to drag his hair down and really get into character. But
Is it though?
I like the scene, and it sort of shows that he's starting to go down that path. Like he's getting arrogant, and I think it's this whole, the nerd is the popular guy now. Like the fact, and it blows my mind, and I always forget that it happens. The fact that he's like obviously ignoring MJ's problems and not paying attention to her life and everything, and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to swing him from that direction." She's there watching, and he recreates the kiss with Gwen Stacy. Every time it happens, I'm like, holy shit, I forget he does that. That's like such a douchebag thing to do in front of her.
Who thinks that's a good idea?
Yeah, just like, yeah, why not? This is awesome. And then to be like, oh yeah, no, she's a girl from my class. Like he knows her, and he's like flirting with her as well.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of that young teen 40-year-old Tobey Maguire, like who's finally popular and like can do this stuff. And I think, yeah, without the symbiote, you can still tell that story and have it be interesting and have that ego come out.
Conan, you have infamously called James Franco sleepy on this podcast before. Which performance did we get out of James Franco in Spider-Man 3?
It's Spider-Man 3. No, Spider-Man 3, I think, like his character, we get two. We get some sleepy Franco and we get some full energy Franco.
Yeah.
I think he is mostly sleepy in these films. Especially the first one, he's really not doing much of anything. It's weird. It's weird, his performance of that.
Yeah.
But in the third one, there's even parts you see he's got like a droopy eye. And I don't know if that's what he normally has or if something it's in the cafe scene, it's really noticeable when he's talking to Pete, like one of his eyes is drooping right down. And I'm like, I don't know if it's an effect they've done, but it looks really distracting. Anyway, I don't know, in the third one, he's weird. I don't know.
I quite like him in these movies, personally.
I think he's got the look as Willem Dafoe perfectly. He looks like a young Willem Dafoe. Perfect casting there. Yeah. Absolutely perfect. But do you like him in all the films or just the second or the...
I think I like him overall. Like I that's the other thing I wish there was more of in Spider-Man 3. Like I feel like he goes from Spider-Man's worst enemy to amnesia best friend to on his side.
Dude.
Like I don't know, there could have been a bit more. Like if they didn't have to spend so much time on Venom, we could have had more conflict there. And I think that's more interesting also.
There's stuff with the amnesia that just cracks me up, Lo. It seems like he's forgotten his whole existence where, like, they say short-term memory, and he's like, oh, I guess I'm not hard up for cash. Like, he doesn't know he's wealthy. Like, in this mansion, he's like, I guess we're wealthy. I wish I remember my dad more, even though I knew him for the first 22 years of my life.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, is it short-term memory loss or is it his whole existence up till now, except for his friends that he remembers are his best friends? Like,
basically, my best friends.
My best friends.
Like, sometimes I felt like they need to have a scene where someone shows him a fork and teaches him how to use it. But like, there's other scenes where he seems to remember things pretty well. It's really, it's a bit all over the place. I'll agree.
Yeah,
like to the point where I'm like, is he faking the whole thing? Like, I kept when he says that thing in the hospital about my best friends, like the way they cut it, it seems like it's going to go back to him and him be like, and turn like sort of evil for a second.
It delivers it like that. Hey,
yeah, like it's really strange. And obviously the fact like he sees the photo of his father and then just like. Yeah, remembers everything again, and it sort of shows that it wasn't a plan all along. But there's part of me like he acts like so bubbly, like the whole like bop on the head, like he's like so blasé that I'm like, is he just playing this up to like?
Yeah. Like, that would have been more. That would have been more interesting if it was all just a like, and that's how he learned, to trust Peter because he actually sees Pete's a great guy. But and again, I don't know the story behind it, but I know that there was just a lot of production interference in this film. Like that's the only reason Venom's in here because they said we need Venom and we need 3 villains. And so you can tell Raimi had his hands tied the whole time. So I wouldn't be surprised if like every second choice was dictated to him. And like they said, all right, we need to have this specific arc for Goblin. And Raimi I can imagine there being a different like draft somewhere where all this happens, where Harry is he's actually planning it all and he's not amnesic. But then they're like, no, that's weird. We need him to be sympathetic. Make him an amnesic. So they just do it.
I was really frustrated. Like the reveal of the butler saying to Harry, like, "Oh, I analyzed your father's wounds. He definitely killed himself."
What are you trying to tell me?
The night your father died, I cleaned his wound. The blade that pierced his body came from his glider. I know you're trying to defend your father's honor, but there's no question that he died by his own hand.
It's such a bad way to turn Harry around on a dime, right? Like his whole attitude changes then and there, all because the butler's like, "No, I checked his wounds."
But like the butler should have done that a while ago. I feel
Exactly.
like.
What has he been doing for the last year?
Yeah, has he restored the glider room and the bombs? He's like, all right, Harry's going to need to become a super terrorist, so I'll make sure to prep up his lair.
And then he becomes one. He's like, and Bernard's like, "Oh no, Harry, this isn't right, man.
Yeah,
You don't understand. Your father." Oh man.
A lot of questions about that film.
Yeah.
But I legitimately laughed a lot during Spider-Man 3, though. Like, it was,
I shuddered when he walks down that street. I genuinely had a shudder. It's cringe-inducing.
It's pretty hard to watch.
me and my wife were like in tears laughing. It's just so funny to us. I don't know. Just like I feel like every second sentence obviously is a meme, but it just like cracks me up. Like the whole oh, little Gobby Jr. gonna cry? Like you're gonna cry? And the whole I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye. Like it's just
wonderful.
There's so many great one-liners from Peter Parker.
Even just his reaction where he's like,
Stings, doesn't it?
Protected you in high school, now I'm gonna kick your little ass.
Oh, that's great. That's great. How could I not think he was so cool in high school?
that's true. In the 2000s, that's what was cool. Can you guys explain to me why Harry in the cafe, when she's like, how's the pie? He looks up and he's like, so good. Like, why does he give that reaction? I've been thinking about it all day.
Because he's so satisfied with the meal he just had with Peter Parker. Where
Is that it? It's like
that he's sleeping with MJ. Yeah.
It's just like
that
this
was so satisfying. That was so
this
good.
revenge is delicious.
Yep. It's best served on this pie.
Follow-up question. Where does he go when the truck drives past?
He ducked under the table.
It's funny because there's a guy in the background who looks
down. I know.
Oh, really?
I was like, I can just picture Harry like hiding under the window, like, ha ha ha, got him.
Got him. It's a strange scene. Like it's very campy. I really felt like the third one, the CGI was really, I don't know if it was badly done, but I think it was overused.
Yeah.
I think one probably suffered because it didn't have good CGI and had to rely on a lot of practical effects when Spider-Man just doesn't move like a human being. But and I think Spider-Man 2 gets it right. But Spider-Man 3, like that at the start when Peter and Harry are fighting, and he doesn't have the costume on, so it's Peter Parker swinging around, and the CGI just doesn't hold up.
Yeah, I noticed the same thing.
Like obviously you're putting my Bebo review to shame where I said the graphics are awesome. And I just thought, but there's a point in that battle at the start where he's like spinning on the web, and I feel like it doesn't make logistical sense how he keeps spinning around in a circle. Like he's shooting webs at Harry, and like they're just spinning around in a circle. And I feel like it's just for the camera shot. I don't feel like it would make sense the way he swung on the building, but it's nitpicking.
It is a bit. There's a few nits you can pick in the third movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So who do we blame? I honestly think it's like production interference. Like too many fingers in the pie.
Yeah. That's it. And it was known almost straight away. Like after this film came out, there was the initial high where everyone was like, best film ever, had Venom, and then very quickly people were like, no, that was bad. What happened? And it became kind of like a news story before the internet was huge, and everyone was like, no, the Columbia Pictures was just way too interfering with it, and they really ruined it.
It did not need three villains. Like it's way too much, and it's not done right. Like two villains I get. Like I think that's fine. You know, you have the personal story with Gobby Jr. and
call him Gojo, please.
Gojo and Sandman, and expand on Sandman's story, because obviously I like that it ties back to Uncle Ben in the first one as well. But it would have been good to see that explored more about his daughter and how he's trying to help her, and what happened after that night and stuff like that. But we never get any of that. But I kind of like Topher Grace as Eddie Brock as just the photographer. He doesn't have to become Venom, but I like the whole thing of him trying to replace him as the photographer for the Daily Bugle.
I quite enjoy that. Like where he photoshops like the photo and
Yeah,
he
like
depicts
he
it, yeah.
just tries to do that. But I will say, it was pointed out to me while we were watching the third one. I'm like, man, that's a very blasé way to like tell this dude that you're dating his daughter while his daughter's dangling from a building and
Mm.
Spider-Man hadn't showed up yet. She's literally hanging on for dear life up there, and he's like, oh, by the way, I'm dating your daughter.
Yeah, he's
Like,
such a
fall and
douchebag.
die. Like,
How
it's
can
like-
you like him? He's an awful
Yeah.
person.
I like him as a villain. I don't want to be his friend. I like him as like this antagonist. But
There's like at the end of that when he's Spider-Man rescues her as well, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm glad to see you're okay," and then she just runs off to her dad. Like, are they actually dating, or is this just some story he's telling?
Oh,
just
true.
Like the photos
It's
he's
Not,
taking?
yeah, they're
she
not though.
says it was like one coffee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
actually-
I've known people like that who just like want to have one coffee with someone and they like think that they're married. You know,
that's marriage. Yeah, Topher Grace. I just don't think he's a good actor. I really.
His best role is in Ocean's 12.
I'll say we talked about this in Oceans, and I don't get why anyone thinks he's good ever.
No, he's not great.
he's great in Interstellar. Wait till we do the Nolan trilogy.
He's in Interstellar. Who's
Yeah,
in
I was
that?
gonna say, I forgot he was in Interstellar.
Yeah, I think he has like one line of dialogue.
Yeah,
He's
they cut
he's
the rest.
the husband of the daughter when she's all grown up, I think. But yeah,
How irrelevant.
All right. Did anyone deserve better in this movie? I think Sandman. Like, I think he deserved
yeah.
better. What's the actor's name? I only know him from Lyle from George of the Jungle.
George of the Jungle, 100%.
No, he's saltwater.
Thomas Hayden Church.
Thomas Hayden Church. He's a saltwater redneck.
Hey, yes, he is.
Yeah.
In Peanut Butter Falcon.
Yes,
Yeah.
true. Yes, he is. Yep.
Yeah, Thomas Hayden Church. Yeah, he's really good. I really wanted just to know what the original Raimi version of this film was because I think he's a really compelling villain, and that scene where he becomes Sandman is probably the best scene in the film, right?
Yeah,
It's really good.
It's a scene that I remember watching it, and I don't know if it was just teenage me being like, "Man, that's so deep!" Like the way he's trying to grab the photo, and it sinks through his hand, and I'm like, "That's so emotional." But it's something I've remembered. Like I always remember that scene of how when he turns into Sandman. Like it's something that stuck with me this whole time, you know. And it's he's a good actor. Like, and it's like, you know, he was great in George of the Jungle. He was a great villain in that. But yeah, no, like he deserves better. I would have liked to have seen him more. But yeah.
I mean, Venom as a villain deserves better. Like
The Venom character deserves better.
yeah, because Venom has always been like he's the main antagonist, right? Like, he's the Joker to Batman, and Spider-Man, and so he really deserves his own film versus Spider-Man. He doesn't deserve to be shoehorned in, and it would have been cool to see that, but yeah, I don't know if it'll ever.
I feel like it's kind of a shame that Sony's decided to take Venom on its own, and we might not ever get a Spider-Man Venom movie ever again.
And this is why the Venom films. This is why the Venom film's bad because it's not a character to have a story about. He's a villain. Like he works entirely as an antagonist. But that's a side point.
I don't know. I don't know the full details, but I believe the most recent deal with Disney and Sony were that Tom Holland could appear in a Sony produced movie with Venom.
Does anybody want that either, though?
Not really. I'd rather have Venom in MCU.
Exactly. I would too. I know Conan doesn't want anything more in the MCU, but
More MCU.
Just freeze the MCU for good.
Man, well, brace yourself because we are getting Tobey Maguire in the MCU as old man Peter Parker.
I'm pretty keen for that. I'm pretty keen for that.
No, I'll be honest. Again, after watching these films, I hadn't seen the trailer for No Way Home, so I went and watched it. And seeing Doc Ock appear, I was like, "Oh, geez, that's exciting!"
And Willem Dafoe's laugh as Green Goblin.
Yeah.
Oh, so good, man.
And so obviously Toby doesn't
Ock's
appear in
awesome.
that, but it's like he's got to be in there. It would make no sense if Maguire's not in there. And
I thought that was all confirmed, but
it is. Is it?
It's
when the trailer.
It's like it's not fully confirmed, as in
Because
they haven't
Garfield's
said it.
He's still saying that he was photoshopped in, right?
Oh, they better not be like a cameo.
They probably will be.
But I know, Andrew Garfield was like, "No, that photo of me on set is a Photoshop job. I'm not in the film." But everyone's like, "But it's a photo of you. It clearly."
No, but there's a lot of bad photoshops of them like on set. There is that's true. But like, I want Tobey Maguire to be like the Peter Parker from Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Like I want him to be this like sort of washed up, like, man, I went through an emo phase. Like my life's not good anymore. You know, like I want that.
Yeah, no, and so I'm really pumped for that. Like, watching these films again reminded me that despite all my hatred for the Marvel machine, like, I still love Superman, Spider-Man. I don't love Superman. I love Superman too, sure. I love Spider-Man, and when they do a good Spider-Man film, I'm super excited for it.
Yeah.
So.
Something special about Spider-Man.
I'm
There
so
it-
keen
yeah.
to see Doc Ock back, like, and to interact with in the MCU. Like, Alfred Molina is awesome.
He's good.
I'm curious what they do because he's a fair bit older now than what he was when these movies were made.
Yeah,
But I
They
mean,
de-aged him, but
they de-aged him in the trailer, obviously.
Mm.
Is there a quick fix? I mean, my opinion is you remove Venom.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about it. Increase the screen time of Sandman and play up that. Like, there's already some good conflict there. Just play that up a bit more.
Dude, you could remove Venom. You could even keep the symbiote and have it just as a tease for the next Spider-Man that the symbiote's left with Dr. Connors. Because obviously he's there experimenting, and obviously Dr. Connors is the lizard.
Yeah.
And that's all it needs to be. And you could still have the symbiote in it. But obviously the symbiote doesn't need to be in it. You could edit this movie and he could not be in it at all, you know? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, I agree.
I think that's totally the answer. It's the film was never constructed to have him in it, but he gets shoehorned in, and it really falls apart. Like,
Yeah.
and like, 'cause you can even have a good film with Venom and a Goblin. Like, Goblin works well as a B villain, sort of as that off. You know, like in Batman Begins, how you've got Scarecrow and Ra's al Ghul. Like, Goblin works really well as this own little, like, he's an additional conflict that ties in.
Yeah.
And so either or him with Venom or him with Sandman would be good. But yeah, 3 villains is too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even just have Venom and cut the emo stuff. It would still be a better film.
You're right. That whole emo section like really does spoil a lot of this film because I actually had fun with a lot of the rest of it. Like,
yeah, the rest of it is okay.
There's good stuff in it. There is some good stuff in that film. Like, yeah, the emo stuff, as entertaining as it is, through a certain lens, does not need to be in this film. They should have just had that as like the best deleted scenes ever. They were like, "Hey, we're going to do this thing. Look at this." And
there's like 30 minutes of deleted scenes of the emo journey.
Yep.
It really does feel like a deleted scene. Hey, like it feels like someone's playing a prank on the director. We're going to dance down the street in this scene.
Yeah,
like,
it's out of place. It's so out of place.
Yeah, because there's even that scene where it's like really that small moment where he's coming back to the apartment and the landlord's like, "Where's my rent?" And Pete yells at him, right? He's like, "Oh, you'll get your rent when you fix this damn door." And it's a really powerful moment because he even says, he's like, "Oh, he's a good kid. He must be in some trouble."
Yeah.
It's a tiny moment of controlled anger. It's like, oh, he is actually Peter's starting to break. This wall that he's got up, or this dam that he's built, is crumbling. So there's all these moments that hint at a really great film, but yeah, just gets crushed on by symbiote juice.
I'll just say, I love that they got Bruce Campbell back as the usher from the second one. Just made him French.
Oh, it's so good. He's like, I am French.
Yeah.
Oh,
that seems real dumb.
I am French.
But, I mean, compared to the rest of the dumb scenes in this movie, it's okay.
I was laughing out loud when each time like MJ's fighting and he makes a hand move and you see Bruce Campbell like wave him over and the dude comes out with a champagne. Oh, he's so good.
Yeah, it's good. All right. Which film wins? But let's talk about Spider-Man 1 first. I mean, unless anyone's going to go to bat for it as the winner. But I feel like we're all agreed.
Yeah, no. Spider-Man 2 is in the league of its own with this trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spider-Man 1 is very, very schlocky. It's very cheesy.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like it's aged the worst of these 3 movies.
Oddly, yeah, considering the third one somehow got a timelessness to it because of yeah, some are just some like you're right, some of the effects are terrible. The Flash, is it Flash Thompson or Gordon? No, it's Flash Thompson.
It's not Flash Gordon. I wish it was Flash Gordon.
That's another comic book, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. That's like the whole Flash Thompson fight and stuff is weird.
That's great, man. I love it.
Yeah, no, I don't mind that bit. I mean, that's
I wouldn't want to fight me neither.
All right, let's talk about that scene then. He goes to punch Pete in the back of the head. His fist like breaks a locker apart, and everybody is upset when Peter punches him and like knocks him on the ground.
Yeah.
They're like, whoa, man, that's not cool. It's like, Flash was literally going to cave his skull in.
Dude, there was 2 of them trying to fight him as well. Yeah. I love where Harry's like, which one? When MJ's like, help him, Harry. And he does the flip over him and he's like, which one?
Yeah, and she's like, you really scared us back there. And it's like, bitch, step in and help him. Like, he
I'm
was
like,
going to get his head caved in.
You're dating a
You're
sociopath.
dating someone who's on roid rage. Like, calm down. I believe he's 30 as well.
Yeah, that's a Flash does not look like he should be at a high school.
No,
Right?
not at all.
None of them people do, really. MJ's the only one that can kind of pull it off.
I mean,
But-
Harry's pretty baby-faced in this.
Yeah.
I just think
Yeah.
he looks oddly youthful. Like he's got no sign of facial hair.
But Tobey Maguire just does not.
Yeah, he stands out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like, obviously, the wrestling scene is a bit weird, and there's some.
I like the wrestling scene, but
I
I know
love
it's
the
not
wrestling
good.
scene.
Like,
It's not like that's what I mean. Like all of these are fun because you're looking at them through a really campy, schlocky lens, but they're not good parts.
no, that's right.
No, but I don't know. There's some funny stuff in it. Like, obviously, I am a wrestling fan, and I grew up a wrestling fan. So watching one of my first comic book like superhero movies, and being like, oh my god, that's Macho Man Randy Savage as like Bonesaw in this, and obviously, it's very different than what real wrestling is like, and it's you know, it's sort of treated as like wrestling's real, like he's actually breaking these people in half. I love the whole introduction of like him being like, no, he said my name wrong. I'm the human spider. Like,
Such a wiener.
He's like, no, he got my name wrong. He's like really like persistent with it.
And that's Bruce Campbell as well, right? Like he's
Yeah.
really good. His cameo is really good in all three of these movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's one of my favorite memes from this one though is there's a scene and obviously it doesn't hold up well of Peter Parker being like that's a nice outfit. Did your husband make it for you?
That's what I mean. Yeah, hasn't aged well.
There's a meme of then Macho Man being like, actually he did. Yeah, maybe shouldn't be such a bigot. You're on the wrong side of history, Spider-Man. But man, they rip him off. Like he beats him up in 2 minutes, and they give him $100 instead of $3,000. Like that's I would have let that robber run past me too,
and you would have had to deal with the consequences.
Yeah, true.
All right, the other scene that really stood out, and maybe you guys like it, when Goblin's on the he's flying along and he's singing the Itsy Bitsy Spiders.
How did you guys feel? So I don't know. The Goblin mask has always bothered me a bit.
Unpack that statement.
I just feel weird. Like, I guess the comics and the cartoons, it's always like it's a mask, but it moves like it's his face, right? Like when he talks, the mouth opens. It's basically his face. In this, like it's a steel mask. You can kind of see his mouth behind the vent.
Yep.
But he loses all expression, obviously, because he's got a helmet on, and it's not a menacing mask like you get with, say, Darth Vader. It's just. I don't know.
That's pretty terrifying.
I mean, the suit in general is a choice. Like it's very plasticky looking. He looks like an action figure. Like he literally looks like an action figure, and obviously that's probably what he was designed for. I will say, my son loves Spider-Man. Like he adores Spider-Man. He loves Venom for some reason. Was terrified of Green Goblin and didn't watch these films with me, and I thought he would, and they didn't. Both of my kids did not want to watch that, and they were scared. Probably more so of Willem Dafoe. There is like the way they do some stuff in the first one. It is scary, like the quick jumps and flashes, like jump scares. It is pretty scary.
And his laugh is really scary.
Yeah. When he first turns, like when he first has the serum and he like kills the assistant with him, like that scene is pretty creepy.
I know, like it scared me as a kid. Like I was, less than 10 years old when I watched it. And I remember that scaring me, like back to formula. Just like he jumps up all arch and like.
I wasn't 10 years old and I wasn't scared because I'm tough, but that's fine.
But back to the costume. There's that scene where he puts Spider-Man to sleep, and they're like both on the roof talking, and he's like really, he's really awkwardly like propped up against a wall.
I love that scene.
It's super awkward.
I don't know. It cracked me up even when I was a kid. I love the fact that he like walks up and like taps him on the back of the head, and he's like, "Here's the real truth." Like it's this like it's this funny like, "Hey, people like you and me," and he like taps him on like the chest, and he's like, "Hey, listen to me. Like I got your back here." Like I don't know. I kind of like that conversation that he's having.
It's almost the Joker like speed. Like he's put Batman to sleep and he's having a chat about it. We're not that different, you know.
And then he
it kind of is.
Then he wears the little outfit in the fire, just like screaming like a woman, and then
Oh yeah.
That's a great scene. That scene's really good, I think, because it is terrifying, and then that reveal when he jumps around, it's like that again. That's scary as well.
it is.
And then they sort of bring it back in the second one where he goes back into a burning building,
Mm.
and the whole time my wife's like, is this a trap? I can't remember. And I'm like, no, but
Yeah,
it's
they're
a good call. It's a really good callback to it.
It is. I feel like the mask is intentionally designed to mimic Willem Dafoe's face in this film. Like Willem Dafoe looks like he's making that face when he smiles.
Yeah,
And so I feel like I've got to imagine they were doing that on purpose. They're like, he looks creepy when he does this grin. Let's design it so it's kind of like a ghoulish version of his normal face. In the same way, like you say, the cartoon one, it moves with his face, but you can't really do that.
No, I know it's hard. It's really hard problem to solve. I don't know if maybe you just show like you can see his jaw because his jaw's already kind of creepy. I don't know.
I feel like he's creepier without the mask on. Like when Norman Osborn's like the Green Goblin, but in his suit,
Yeah,
and like the expressions he pulls, like he's scary. He's a scary man. Like in
Where he's
Peter
talking to
Parker's
himself in
apartment,
the mirror. Yeah,
that. But like even like him checking out MJ is like he like looks her up and down and has like that creepy like look, and it's just he's a creepy dude.
Or he starts they're having Thanksgiving dinner and he's like fingering the mashed potato.
Oh,
Yeah,
and
so good.
sharpening the knives too. Like
Yeah, he's
every,
got that. Almost licks his lips. It's great.
Yeah,
Willem Dafoe is fantastic in this film.
he really is. I really enjoyed Willem Dafoe.
yeah.
And like those scenes where he's talking to the mirror, because obviously he's playing two characters, right? He's
Yeah.
talking to himself, then he reacts to it.
Somebody there?
Somebody.
Who said that? Don't play the innocent with me.
That's a pretty tricky thing to do as an actor, to just switch between two personas. And he does, even though it's not like, it's not an Oscar performance, he does it really well. He had me thinking that he was a conflicted villain. Like,
It's a very Gollum Smeagol scene.
yeah.
I enjoy it.
Goblin Smeagol. Like even I like the final scene. Like, that's the thing. One is like I feel like it's just because obviously I watched as a kid and the nostalgia tied to that. But like there's so many scenes in number one, like it's just so memorable to me. The final fight scene in that abandoned building with all the bricks and like Spider-Man getting thrown through that, the glider like flying. It's just all stuff that's stuck in my head so vividly. Like I remember that more than the end of recent MCU movies I've watched.
Yeah,
you know, like it's
Exactly.
and the whole dropping the tram full of kids who are on an excursion at 8:00 at night for some reason in New York. And
My wife did the
MJ
same thing.
I didn't mind, but I'm like, didn't you ever go to Canberra and like go to the top of Telstra Tower?
I mean,
in the
we
middle
all
of the
went.
night? Like,
Yeah,
we all did
That was my response, man.
that's true. But they were all in their school uniforms. I don't know. Or were they? No, they weren't. But I don't know. It's just
and
there's
the city like throwing the rocks and trying to help him out. Yeah, that's I enjoy all of that. Yeah,
it's classic.
Yeah.
You mess with one of us. You mess with all of
all
us.
of us.
Gives me
Weapons.
chills, goosebumps. But that's the thing. I love like in that how he has the character change as well. Like where he does seem really sympathetic. Where he's like, Peter, like it's me. It's like I'm sorry, and he's just like, Godspeed, Spider-Man. Godspeed, Spider-Man. Yeah,
It switches it on.
yeah.
I really like the whole sort of duality they have of where Norman is like a father to Pete, and you can tell that Harry is kind of like he feels that, right? He feels very excluded. Yeah, and it's a kind of nice thing where Spider-Man finds a surrogate, or Peter finds a surrogate father in Norman, and it's a good way of like planting those seeds of the rift. Because I have no idea what the Harry-Peter dynamic is in the comic books or the broader lore, but it's a really nice way of being like this, you know, telegraphing that this will eventually become a conflict. This relationship's not going to last.
Yep.
It's a really nice touch.
You've also got MJ in there as well. Like the Harry starts going out with her, despite knowing that Peter Parker's had a crush on her for 14 years.
It's a bit of a douche move, hey?
Yeah, it's a bit of a dick move. Yeah.
He's like, you're taking too long, buddy.
I mean, I'm also interested in like none of them seem to be friends, but then she like dates Harry and is in love with Peter, but they never spoke in high school at all.
Yeah, they act like, oh no, we've been friends forever. We went to high school together. They lived next door to each other, but it seems like she didn't want to really give him the time of day. And then,
No.
High school ends, and where's
I mean-
Flash, huh?
Man, if there's not a more relatable scene than her waving to him in the first movie, and him like being like "Hmm?" and like waving, and then her friends wave. Like, man, I've had that. It's great. I don't know. I love like nerdy Tobey Maguire in the first one. It's he's endearing, even though he's about 10 years older than he should
He is.
be.
I think they do a good thing here by making the like he announces that in the voiceover at the beginning, right? He's like, "This is a story about a girl." He makes it that clear. Like, look, in high school, it's young, unrequited love. You know, he's all about. He's longing for Mary Jane. He's a disconnected teenager. He's got no real friends. Like, it makes him just super relatable to the people who would have gone to see this film. And
They're comic book fans.
yeah,
almost.
like I think most people who would be interested in this, and to an extent, everybody is in some way can just relate to that really, really strong and be like, I was alienated in high school, and so I totally get why Peter is a great character.
I mean, we've had these movies. Spider-Man has been rebooted quite a bit. Do you guys have an opinion on who your favorite Peter Parker is overall of those three movies?
Oh yeah, let's have this debate.
Okay, so I don't know. This is my Peter Parker, and it's just going to always be like that because this is who I grew up on. I think Tom Holland's probably a better Peter Parker, but like especially the high school Peter Parker and
He's
Tom
definitely
Holland,
more of a high school student.
like, he seems like that.
Maguire.
He's coming up on his third film now, and he's younger than Tobey Maguire was in his first Spider-Man film. So, like, it's definitely Tom Holland's a great Spider-Man. Like, there's no argument there. But Tobey Maguire is he's my Spidey. He's just who I grew up with. Andrew Garfield, I don't even think is in the conversation. So.
I mean, I don't think he wins, but I really enjoyed his performance, and I do think there's a side of Spider-Man, the quick-witted name, like and he does the name calling and stuff like that in like Tobey Maguire does it, but when he's like calling Goblin Gobby and stuff like this, like it always feels really awkward, and it's just not that great. And I think Andrew Garfield does that a lot better in his two movies. I wish it was a trilogy because man, it'd be cool to analyze those three trilogies, but I
agree. I think Garfield actually gets the confidence that Spider-Man brings out in Peter Parker. Garfield actually gets that probably the best. He's got that sort of wit. There's that scene at the beginning where he's stopping some robbers and dodges bullets, and it's just his back and forth with them is really funny, and it feels like a guy who's got this wit but never uses it because he's a nerd. And that's it. I think that's the best realization of that. And Tom Holland and Tobey Maguire are weird because like Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker is in his last year of high school, right? So he's like 18. Whereas Tom Holland is in middle school, I think. So he's like 15. So it is actually a very distinct difference, even though, again, Tobey Maguire looks like he's 40.
Yeah.
I believe he was 27 or 28 when he was filmed the first one.
Well, he still looks 40.
Yeah.
That's a bit more forgivable, being like, look, he's an adult, effectively. He's about to be out in the real world on his own. Whereas Tom Holland is a kid at home. I don't know. I love Tobey Maguire. I really like Tom Holland is almost too cool, even when he's Peter. Like, he has friends.
He's a cool dude playing a nerd.
Yeah.
Is he that? He's not that much of a nerd, really, though, in those movies, is he?
No,
he's a little bit awkward, like around Mary, like whatever her name is in that movie. It's not. She's not Mary Jane, is she? She's
just MJ.
MJ. Like, he's a bit awkward around her and stuff like that, which I find endearing. Like, I like Tom Holland's Spider-Man quite a lot. He isn't the nerd, though. He's not the nerd Spider-Man. And I don't know if the nerd Spider-Man works that well today anyway. Like, I don't...
But I feel like that is so pivotal to Peter Parker's... to the character, right? Peter Parker is this... He's like Clark Kent. He's this complete geek who you would never assume could be someone more because he's just such a nerd. He's so awkward. He's so weird. And that's why Spider-Man becomes such a pivotal part, because he's allows him to do everything he truly is.
Yeah.
And Tom Holland just feels too cool.
But
the whole time.
The new Spider-Man series is a bit weird, where even like where Flash Johnson seems like a nerd. Like, he seems like, Flash in that is almost nerdier than Tom Holland. It's not like a joke.
But that's meant to be the
like
same.
that.
Yeah, that's meant to be the Flash he tries to beat.
Yeah, it's the same character, but it's like it's a different perspective where it's like where they're kind of friends that are just like riffing off each other more, as opposed to a school bully beating him up sort of thing.
Yeah.
Where it's just like the misfits of like high school in a way. But that's the thing. I do remember when I watched like the Amazing Spider-Man series with Andrew Garfield, thinking like, oh, like the banter and like the stuff with the criminals and like the little remarks and comments and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, this is funny. Like, and he plays that well. I will say like they're my weakest things in memory for me because I think I've only watched both of them the first time I watched them, and I never rewatched them again.
Yeah, I haven't watched them a lot either.
And they're in a weird place where I don't have a desire to rewatch them. I don't know what it is. I can't bring myself to watch them again. It's a weird thing.
They're pretty poorly executed. Like I feel like there's some really I do think Andrew Garfield's really good as Spider-Man. I really like Emma Stone in those movies, but I just think they just don't deliver on that potential.
I seem to remember the first one being pretty like all right.
Mm.
The Electro one was really bad.
But I liked what they did with Gwen Stacy in that too. Like I don't know, but yeah, she was great as Gwen Stacy, Emma Stone. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see if he comes into this one, the new one as well.
So. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah,
get them all
that'd
in.
be great.
All right, time to talk about Spider-Man 2.
So I just have a couple of things to go over with number one.
So do I.
Okay.
All right, wow.
I'll just say I feel like we haven't talked about it yet, and like how good is J.K. Simmons?
Yes.
In
I
all
was
three of
going
these
to
films.
bring it up at some point, but yes.
Like in all three films, so funny. Like oh man, just every scene he just steals it. He is J. Jonah Jameson to me. I'm so glad that he's J. Jonah Jameson again in the new universe as well. He's so good and just so funny. I'm like, I find myself just cracking up at every line he says. Just even stuff like, your wife called, she lost the checkbook, and he's like, thanks for the good news. Like, it's just the way he delivers it, just is such a character.
Yeah, every scene of his is so chaotic. Like, he's like holding conversations with his receptionist about his wife and dealing with Peter and dealing with his other editors. Like, there's so much fun, and he seems to balance these spinning plates really well. Like, he does such a good job. You're right. Like, there is no one else who can do that role now.
No, yeah, it's one of those weird castings. It's like Walter White, where there's no one else you could ever imagine being this character, right? Like he's so perfect as Jameson. Just his back and forth with like his weird offsider, not the big dude, the
suck up guy.
Yeah, because that's Ted Raimi. That's Sam Raimi's brother, which is kind of funny. But just their relationship's really funny, where he's such a wiener. Like in the third one, he's like, "It's hip, it's now, it's wow." He just like boots him out the door,
and he's trying to keep calm. Like he's just like letting him do his spiel, and he's like, "That was actually me. That was Jameson. He's wild." Like
you're too laughing in it.
I just love like where he just pops in. Like it's such like Grana nailed it. It's so chaotic. Like how he just pops in the side view. He's like, "I care, sir," and he's like, "Shut up." Just like get out of here, like, and just so much so that like he's like these amazing photos of Spider-Man when no one's seen, like it's just like the Bigfoot blurs. He brings these like high definition photos of him spinning about, and he's like,
"They're crap, mega crap. I'll give you $200 for all of them."
That seems a little low.
Take them somewhere else then.
Sir, your wife says the tile you ordered for the foyer is out of stock.
Tell her we'll just put a rug there. Sit down. Give me that. I'll give you $300. That's a standard freelance fee. Tear up page 1. Run that photo instead. Headline: Spider-Man, hero or menace. Exclusive Daily Bugle photo.
Crap, mega crap. $50. Take it or leave it. And I love him like realizing like, man, I forced him out.
Yeah.
And now and then he's like, he's a criminal.
So
he takes the suit.
Takes the suit back. Yeah, that's a great scene.
Yeah.
Have you seen I didn't remember if it was in the third movie or if it was in like these movies at all, but it's a deleted scene of him wearing the Spider-Man suit. Have you seen it? Like it's a deleted scene from number 2 where someone walks in and he like jumps on his desk like Spider-Man with a cigar in his mouth, and he's like, sure, like doing the webs. It's like a full like scene. They filmed it and edited it. It's like,
that's funny.
It should have been in the film, but it's worth watching. Absolutely.
The way he chomps the cigar is great. He's just he's got
make him infamous.
News baron.
It's great.
Yep.
Okay, Conan, you go.
All right. I mean, I've got a lot here. I'm going through them quickly. We talked about Franco. Young Octavia Spencer's in this, which is weird. Like, it's a very early cameo for her. How do we feel about the natural web?
Hate it.
You
Oh,
don't like
just coming out of his wrist.
All right, because I love it. I think it's great.
Do you? What?
Yeah.
I mean, I say I hate it, but I guess I hate it because it's not. It's like comic book Spider-Man. That's very rarely the case. Like, there's a few iterations where that's the case, and I think one of those is where he can turn into a spider.
Oh, like, that's messed up.
Yeah, I don't think it's it's not like, I don't know, it's not canon, but
yeah.
I like, it does open up a nice avenue for stressed Spider-Man in number 2, and that affecting his web. Like,
which we'll get
I can
into.
appreciate that, but I do also enjoy the like showing the brains of Peter Parker in him constructing the mechanical web shooters.
Because that's my biggest issue with his web shooters, is that for this 15-year-old kid to be able to create a web that is so strong, it can, like, it can hold people up by just a string. It can do all this miraculous stuff. Like, that's Super Soldier Army stuff, right? Like, that's
in the canon. That was part of the power, though. Like, he believed
it enhanced his intelligence.
No, that he specifically had taught him how to make web.
What do you mean it taught him how to make web?
Like as in,
he saw the algorithm in his head.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a spider talking to him?
I don't know. Part of the knowledge that was passed down through the bite was how to make the web shooters.
Okay. That's... Yeah.
See, like...
I don't know.
Like we said, I grew up with this as my Spider-Man. So until the most recent movies, that's how I saw the web, was just that coming out of his wrist. With the most recent ones and like the games have it like coming out of a web shooter, it seems weird that it's just this spot on his wrist like that shoots web out of his body.
Yeah.
It's a little strange looking back on it. But for a long time, that's what I thought was the norm. But
yeah, I was the same. I always thought that was it, and then when I heard some of them had web shooters, like, that's so dumb.
I like the web shooters. There's still there's still a scene in Spider-Man 1 where you can see the mechanical web shooter on his offhand, because they were going to do that originally.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Why do you think they changed it?
I'm not sure. Raimi gave a reason, and like I said, it does open up a nice avenue for 2.
Yeah,
but,
it leads very well into that story. But okay, look, I was a fan, but that's...
Like, what happens if you shake hands with Spider-Man though, and you touch his gooey web bits? Like, it just feels freaky.
Well, we saw it, right, where he gets it on the fork and he causes chaos.
It's just like, is that like a hole in his wrist? Like, can people just like stick their finger?
Yeah.
Start pulling web out like a magic trick. Like, they just start pulling all this web out.
When he's feeling sick, he just like sneezes and it bursts out of him.
Does he get tired if you keep pulling more out? Like, is he like, I'm losing my web?
Yeah, there's a good question there about his energy consumption.
The other nice thing about mechanical web shooters is that it gives an explanation for why he can shoot a long string, and then he can shoot a net, and then he can shoot a ball of web, and like, they're just all settings on the web shooter, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Like, is he moving his hands in a different motion to produce those? Probably.
There's
other ways to explain it.
It's like yeah, exactly. It's like hand motions and stuff, like a ninja.
Yeah, it's like Naruto.
Yeah, it's his chi. Okay. I think Mary Jane's a fleshed out character in this. Surprisingly, she actually has Watson's, like, she's not just like, I'm here entirely for his thing. She has her own future and her jobs that she wants, and it's like, I thought that was a nice touch having her as a bit more of a... She loses it in number 3. She's not a character in the third one.
Yeah, but in every film, she is the damsel in distress still.
That's true, yeah. She's not perfect by no means. And she screams a lot.
Yes, a lot.
I mean, number 1 does have like the best kiss scene.
Yeah, without a doubt.
It's still a great scene, but yeah.
No.
My wife was like, why does she not wear a bra in any of these scenes? I'm like, you know why.
Because Kirsten Dunst don't need to. Speaking of that scene though, on the kiss, she's like, oh, you're always saying, he's like, yeah, I was in the neighborhood. Peter said that like 5 minutes earlier.
I know.
Does that not make her... I don't know.
Dude, that gets me into a whole nother thing. Like, the whole arc of Spider-Man 2, and I don't know if I should just save it for when we're talking about Spider-Man 2, or just get into it now. Like, it's weird to me that, like, you know, at the end of this, she sort of realizes he's Spider-Man with the kiss. Like, has suspicions.
Yeah.
He's like, look, I can't do this. Like, I'm choosing to be Spider-Man. I can't do this over. Like, she professes her love for him. And he's like, look, I can't do this. It's irresponsible. I need to be Spider-Man. And then number 2, it's like he's trying to win her affection. Like it's like he's like going to these shows like, oh no, I need to make it up to her. Like I really want her. Like it's still like it's taken the development back a bit. Where she's like dating this guy, he's like, no, I need to win her affections. But why when I'm actually still having this thing of like, and even when she does be like, okay, you were right. He has that moment again where he realizes, he's like, actually, sorry, I can't because I need to be Spider-Man.
It's a pretty painful on again, off again, like, storyline. I don't know if it completely works.
I don't mind it. I think it's because it's his that battle inside. He wants to have Mary Jane.
Yeah.
But he's also constantly like, but I can't do this. But he's not. Yeah, I feel like
he has moments where he's like, no, I'm Spider-Man. And then he says, man, I really want her.
Because it's in the moments of weakness, right? He has a bad day and he's like, oh, it'd be great to just have a girlfriend right now. He's like, no, but I got to stop murder.
Fair enough.
Also, all right, my other nitpick is he gets bit on the hand by a spider. It's big and it's red. He's a very smart dude. He's like, oh, I'm going to go to bed for a while, guys.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go see a doctor about this.
I guess as Australians, that seems like really foreign to us. I feel like in the US, it's less of a trip to the emergency room every time you get bitten by a spider.
Well, in Australia, it's like pretty much every spider could kill you.
Yes. Yeah. We have a different view of spiders here than I think they do in the rest of the world.
Maybe that's true. I still feel for a guy who's this smart, he's like, oh, a bizarre spider bit me, my hand's going bulbous.
And we're at this spider exhibition where they're talking about like all these deadly spiders and unique spiders and just a blue and red one.
It looks very fake. Anyway. All right.
It looks pretty cool though. I like it.
All right. Spider-Man 2?
Spider-Man 2.
Boy.
What a movie.
I love this film.
I always knew I loved this film, but then watching it again, I was just like, holy crap, that's a great movie. Not just a great superhero film, not a great Spider-Man film, just a great film. Like a really good character study, really exciting, really well written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we were talking about it earlier. I love the arc of him like losing his power and like the whole thing of like, does he want to be Spider-Man? Is this what is he destined to be Spider-Man or whatever? There's some funny scenes, obviously, in the elevator that goes for like a few seconds long, which is great. Good. I love the rides up in the crotch a bit too.
Yeah,
it's just like this honesty from it.
We get the pizza time memes.
Oh man, dude! One of my favorite lines from the whole trilogy is, "Whoa, he just stole that dude's pizza." It's hilarious. Pizza time. Yeah, no.
That gave us one of the best mini games in Spider-Man 2.
Yep.
I'm going to put that pizza music in here in the podcast.
Please do. You see, all right, Alfred Molina, like he's really compelling, right?
He is. Yep. He is really good. He works really well on both sides. Like he works really well as this mentor and friend to Peter, and then he has his turn, and it's just it works so well.
Yeah.
That whole I really like that whole train scene, like the big set piece in the middle of the movies. Like I don't know, I think that scene is just phenomenal. Like like if you feel like he should have this conscience about this, right? Like he doesn't want to kill all these people. He's just like he's ready to kill all these people. He doesn't give a shit. Like he just wants to get
It's that's the thing. Like I love the whole mentor thing. Like in him sitting down with the dinner with like his wife and Peter, and like they're talking and they're talking nerdy stuff and going on about, oh, he's worried I'm going to destroy the city. Like, like this is his life work. Like it's that he's really warm in that, and then it's so he's so cold and scary when he turns that. Like in the scene in the hospital, and obviously it very much reminds me the way they use the claws is very much Alien. Like there's xenomorphs to me in like a lot of scenes, like the way they like screech and like the way they have their silhouettes like attacking people and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that scene scared me as a child. Like the guy with the chainsaw, and then like the camera on the thing tracking him down. It's like scared me. And watching it again, I'm like, man, there's some truly like terrifying stuff in this.
Talking about really that scene in the first one when Willem Dafoe goes evil and scary, it's like this is up to 11, right?
Yep.
This scene is terrifying.
I mean, that's Raimi, right? Like that's his bread and butter, isn't it?
That's the thing. He's a born and bred horror director, and you can tell he's just trying to. He puts it in this one moment at his. Because my wife was watching, she's, what is this rated? I'm like, it's PG-13.
PG. Yeah.
I was like, holy, like this is a blood curdling scene. And it perfectly, like in that one moment, it perfectly captures sort of his descent, right? Like this is who he is now. He's cold blooded, and these evil things they're not just toys. They're horrible. It's good storytelling.
They're controlling him. That damn inhibitor chip just had to short circuit.
I mean, no one thought a sun was going to explode in his lab. So
it's so cool too. I do like that.
Peter. Like I love the imagery, like how he's very clearly like an Icarus figure.
Yeah,
he's got like these wings essentially. He's flying close to the sun. It's like man's folly trying to reach too high. Like it's just really cool, like theatrical storytelling. It's I don't know. I love it so much. And then and the whole little monologue he has with himself, where he's like, "If I can't do this, it's a crime." He's like, "No, you're right. The crime would not be fulfilling our potential."
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's this direct inverse of Spider-Man, right? Where he's like, I have to fight crimes. It's irresponsible of me to not be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then Doc Ock is the mirror of that. It's like, it's irresponsible of me to not do this evil thing.
Yeah.
But it's funny in like the thing that he's trying to do, and like he's a villain for I'm building this machine again, but like what this machine's purpose is like a good thing. Like it's like renewable energy for the planet. So it's like, even as this villain of being like, no, I need to pursue this idea. It could destroy the world. He's like, but this is going to help the world in a weird way. It's an interesting thing, I think.
Yeah, like he's not just like, I'm going to destroy everything because I can.
But he's willing to kill a whole train of people though to do it. It's like
exactly. Yeah. So I guess that's what makes a great villain though, is that there's a villain who will believe in their goals, and their goals actually make sense, but they're willing to cross a line for them. And it's like, because in all these things, in all superhero sort of literature, there's that step where Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, whoever, they could become a villain very easily if they don't have a code, if they don't draw a line somewhere.
Yeah.
But they do, and that's what distinguishes them. It's not their powers, it's their personality. And it's the same with him. His quest is arguably noble, but he will cross a line to get there, and thus he is evil. It's really cool.
We also get Jeff Winger in the bank.
I've completely forgot he was in it. I just want to really briefly touch on the guy. So the guy who wrote Spider-Man 2, right? He's this dude named Alvin Sargent. He was in his 70s when he wrote this film. Never written superhero stuff before. He was like an Oscar-winning writer who wrote the script for Ordinary People, which is like won Best Picture back in 1980. Really great film. Kind of makes a few weird things in Hollywood, but then out of nowhere writes Spider-Man 2. And holy crap, what a great job. Like, it's this weird thing where he shouldn't... It's almost like, why would you get this guy as a writer for a superhero film? But he does the best job at it. And I think it really pointed out, it says to me, he's writing a great... It is, man. But he's writing a great film first, right? He's like, how do I write this interesting character drama of what Spider-Man is? And that's why it's so compelling. He's not writing a film for a broader universe. He's not writing a film as like, I just want to write an exciting action Spider-Man film. He's like, no, this is a character film. It's about who Spider-Man is. And that's why this film works so well.
Man, I find it so funny, like how clueless Peter Parker is. That scene with the doctor where he's like, "Oh, it's not actually even my dream. It's a friend of mine's dream." It's like, doesn't make any sense. Like, oh, my friend's having this dream. Could that be responsible for me? But obviously, the doctor completely understands what's going on, and it's kind of a funny thing that he like sort of realizes, like, "Oh, are you Spider-Man?" Like, it's like a.
I just love it because he's like my friend in his dream is Spider-Man in his dream.
In his dream. Just want to make sure I make that clear.
Yeah.
In
Toby,
his dream.
like, Maguire's very funny in that scene.
And like Grant touched on it earlier, the train scene's iconic. Like it's such a good scene. Like
they recreated in Homecoming, right? With that ferry scene, it's very clearly the same.
It is very similar.
The same energy.
I mean, that's kind of they seem to do a lot in Spider-Man, is like he's got to put his body on the line. Like he's the one standing between, the rock and the hard place. Like, because they do it in the first movie as well, where he's got to stretch himself between like saving MJ and holding onto these kids in the whatever it is, the trolley thing.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know but it's done. I think this is one of the best versions of it, if not the best version of it.
Yeah.
And just the way the crowd like pulls him in, and they're like, he's got no mask on, and they're like, he's just a kid. Like it's a really good moment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
really powerful.
the failed attempt of him like trying to stop it with his feet.
Yeah.
It's just like not working. And then the train conductor's just like, any other bright ideas? Giving him attitude.
I so wanted to hit that guy at that moment.
And Peter's just like, a few, yeah. I'll try this. But something like my wife noticed, and it's something that like it's very noticeable. Some of the facial expressions that Tobey Maguire pulls as like Spider-Man, like in duress or in moments of sadness, or like, you know, like they're sort of, it's real faces where it doesn't look appealing. And it's something that I feel like the MCU and this whole celebrity thing, like I couldn't see like a Robert Downey Jr. or any of that, like pulling that very realistic sort of things. Like everyone's got to look cool doing this. But Tobey Maguire's got this thing of being like, oh, ugly cry like the hell. Like he's the ugly cry meme now for like ever, you know? And it's very relatable. It is very relatable. And it's a like a humanity to it as well. So I really like it.
I had the exact same thought. I was like, it's not trying to make it look pretty. When he cries, he looks like crap.
Yeah.
When he's like screaming in pain and his grunts are like, oh, like they really sound weird and uncomfortable. It's like, because he's in pain, he's getting stabbed. Like, it's not.
Like the whole in the first one as well, but just like anytime he gets hit or like stabbed with something, it's like that like it's like this real yelps. Like, and I think it adds to it a lot because it doesn't feel like this choreographed cool guy action fight scene. It's like, man, this dude's getting beat up by this Green Goblin Power Ranger dude. But but Doc Ock's amazing. It's weird that he's just in this warehouse though, like in the middle of nowhere, just building this thing on his own. But I kind of like it. I think it's kind of cool.
I really like that. I like the fact that he's not with a team or trying to get anyone else, or, you know, he's not like, oh, I've got to, I don't know, join more people, get people to join my cause or my religion for the sun. He's just like this obsessed madman. He's like, I'm building this thing because, again, because I'm Icarus. I can, so I have to. Like, it's my duty as a smart man to try to create this thing.
The only thing that's weird with like for me is like there's the scene of like, you know, he's got all the shipping containers and he's like building the stuff, you know, he's like pulling it out of boxes and building it. So I'm like, okay, did he steal all this stuff and then like like crawl all the way out to this place and no one's noticed him go there? Like no police have noticed. He's just gone to that building there. He keeps going there. Or is he getting stuff FedEx to him and mailmen are like going way out to this place and be like, hey man,
Amazon,
here's
dude.
this thing, you know, Amazon,
Amazon
dropping it off.
Deliveries.
Warehouse number 1 in the middle of the lake. But yeah, but I kind of like it. It's a cool setting, and I think it's a cool setting for the final showdown, even though it's not really a fight, which is kind of cool as well. But yeah,
I love the fact that the action spectacle in this is so much more sort of grounded and mundane. There are moments of great action, but there's no like 20-minute battle. There's no huge theatrical sort of. Yeah.
I mean, there is the bank, right? Like the bank is the one that stands out. Where like, why does this bank have so many bags of coins?
So many.
He's like launching clock hands at him as arrows and stuff. Like that's a theatrical battle, but it is cool. Yeah. Like I do enjoy that. I like it. It's really good.
And I like Aunt May's involvement with that, where she like smacks him with that umbrella.
Yeah,
it's great.
Aunt May's Let's talk about Aunt May. How do we feel about her?
She's Aunt May to me. Like I don't know if it's just. I think I like her as Aunt May. Like she's not Marissa Tomei. But
but the idea of Marissa Tomei's Aunt May is horse crap. So,
I mean, it's played for laughs, right? Like it's so Tony has someone to float with.
Yeah,
but I don't know that this old lady, like her saying her prayers in the first one, and Green Goblin comes in is like this really powerful scene. Like deliver us. It's like it's stuck with me the way she delivers that line, and obviously, like I said earlier, Tobey Maguire is my Spider-Man because I grew up with that. But she is my Aunt May. Like that's who I picture as Aunt May. Like straight up, that's who I picture. and I don't know. I like her performance, and she has some great lines, like and stuff like that of advice.
No, I think she's really good. Yeah,
Which
I don't have much to add.
I like her. Like she's really bringing the old lady energy where she she slaps the coin out of his hands. She slaps Norman. She's like Norman, and like when Harry yells at when Harry has that fight with MJ in the first one, she's like Harry Osborn.
Yep, it's great.
It's just like it's such a weird thing to imagine. I don't know,
but
I think she has a real humanity to her. Like she is the emotional core of this. And like when you see her in the second one, she's crying because she can't give Peter any more than $20.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that scene's really powerful, I feel.
Yeah. And
don't
you
really
really
leave it here, like
Yeah. You really feel it. And all of her drama is really compelling and really like human. She's great.
Even the whole interaction with her, like, you know, when he tells her the truth, you know, and she like lets go of his hand. And then even the scene in number 3 where he's like Spider-Man killed him.
Yeah, that's
like, and she's like, what? She's like, Spider-Man doesn't murder people. And he's like, yeah, I thought you'd like it. Like,
like the murder. Yeah.
But no, she's like you said, that scene about with the money. Like I remember that scene, and I feel for that. Like it's a powerful thing. I think she's a great actress. So.
It's funny her like stepping on Jeff Winger's toes though. Under the table.
Yeah. And they're just slapping his hand from the coin. Just like
toaster.
But then that
breaks my heart
that's
too.
So sad.
It is.
Oh, like I relate that moment so many times when like my parents do something that like guilts me and I feel really bad. That's the thing I can relate it to is I'm like, oh, that toaster scene where you just feel so bad for someone. Like her face is like, oh, okay, yeah, I see that now. Like that's where it says. I'm just like,
that's the thing is like that's my parents right there. I can just see them go through this exact situation. But like, at least we get a toaster, right? And they're just not. And they're just I can see their hearts breaking, and that breaks my heart because Aunt May is like my mum.
Yeah, exactly.
She reminds me of my nana a lot, which is like a testament to her performance, really.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Exactly. So.
That train scene again. So the train scene, right? Best scene in the film. There's this dude who does film analyses, and he talks about that scene, how in that scene, Spider-Man has to make the sacrifice. And it's just this, like I couldn't really figure out why that scene was so good, and the video was really helpful because it just points out he makes this choice here. The cost of being Spider-Man becomes visual. We see him take the mask off. He has to reveal his identity to do this incredibly difficult thing and save these people. And I think this is a good example of why this film works so well. It understands what makes a superhero tick. It understands who the character and the persona is, and it embodies that dilemma so well. I love that scene.
Yeah, good. No, the train scene is great, and I love just like them standing up to Doc Ock at the end, just like you'll have to go through me, and like, gladly, and just separates the whole train.
It's a good play on number 1 as well, where they're like throwing rocks and putting him off balance and stuff, and it actually works. And here, it's just like no, like get out of my way.
And I swear some of the same people are there. Like I swear, like there's the same New Yorker that's there again. Like, no, man, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. But yeah, no, it's great. But what do we think of the whole thing of Peter Parker giving up like the suit and ignoring crime for a bit, and has to put the glasses back on, and raindrops are falling on his head, or whatever that song is.
Yeah, oh, that's right. I really enjoy that scene. I think it's because it shows that he's happy, right? Like he is actually, there is a reason to not be Spider-Man. It's not just
he can succeed in the other aspects of his life.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this with Batman because I think there are pretty similar characters in a lot of ways. Batman's dilemma has always been that he doesn't want to be Bruce Wayne. He is just Batman. And his whole thing, right, is that he has to pretend to be Bruce Wayne, and he has to like keep that masquerade up, but he's always Batman. Like that's who he truly is.
Yep.
Whereas Spider-Man, I think, is a bit more compelling, arguably, because there are both sides of his life that are important. He's not just like, I want to fight crime, that's who I am, I've got this strict moral code. And it's all about with great power comes great responsibility. It's a burden thrust upon him. And it shows what a hero he is because he doesn't necessarily complain. He doesn't shirk his responsibilities there, but there is a reason to. So what makes him such a great hero is because he chooses to be a hero in the face of these compelling reasons not to be, because he could get the girl, he could get the class, he could have a job and actually pay his rent. Like all these things would be better and easier, and a less than heroic person would do that. And so,
that's why he's freaking awesome compared to like. It's something that I said to my wife while watching it. I was like, man, this is like a relatable superhero because, and it gets brought up on like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But like,
I was going to say this exact thing, yeah.
All these people are like rich, like they don't have day jobs. They're all just living in these like Stark Tower or whatever. Obviously, it touched on it in Falcon and Winter Soldier, like we need a loan for this. Like we're not just funded or rich. But this one, like, it's very much his identity. Like, I am living in this shithole apartment with this. I can't even pay rent.
Yeah.
To the dodgy landlord who's like harassing me for it.
Who I have to share a bathroom with.
Yeah, exactly. The door doesn't close. Like it's this really dodgy apartment, and he's just sitting there being miserable. I lost my job again, but I'm doing this because I got to be Spider-Man, and he still does that. Like he still chooses to do that. And that's what I really like it, and it's this really relatable thing of like he's a real person who's become a superhero, as opposed to these people who are larger than life, like Captain America or Iron Man, who are just or Thor. Like it's just they're so larger than life characters that
it's nice. It's nice to see a small issue like not having enough money be a big conflict for Spider-Man. Like, could you imagine Tom Holland's Spider-Man not having any money like that?
No.
He's literally funded by the richest man in the universe. Like it's just, that tiny conflict is so far away from the Spider-Man that all the characters really that we get in the MCU. And you're right, we saw a little bit of it in Falcon Winter Soldier, and when we did those podcasts, we're like, this is interesting. Give us more of this, but it's been done, and it's been done in Spider-Man like 1 and 2.
It's been very well too. Like
and I think that's like I was looking up, most popular superheroes and stuff because I wasn't sure if it was who was the winner, and Spider-Man seems to actually win by a long shot, and I think that's why, because he's just such a relatable character because he's a person first rather than just a hero identity, which I don't know, really, it makes these films super compelling, and it makes them so much more, I think, engaging and just relevant. Because like every time you watch it, it's like, I too struggle with being a hero who can't pay their rent.
Very relatable. I was gonna say, what did you guys think of MJ just ditching Astronaut on her wedding day to go be with Spidey?
I'm with her. I love that scene. I love her running through the park in a wedding dress. It's just a really cool scene. It's like that would be the weirdest thing to see.
It has the filter on it too. Like it's all like very
really bright.
It makes for a really nice scene, but that's a dick move.
It's because he's not a bad dude either. It's not like he's this like good guy. It does give us the other great line though with J. Jonah Jameson being like, "Call the caterer." Like, that's his first thought. Like, we need to save some money. Don't open the caterer.
Great.
And I don't know why, but man, go get him, Tiger. I love that line. It's great. So I want to hear that when I go to work every day. So.
Yeah. No, I think it's you're right, like it's a bit of a dick move, but it's probably more of a dick move to marry him than be like, by the way, I really love Parker, so
I mean, she should have made that decision before. But anyway.
Yeah, look, Mary Jane is not without her faults. All right. Let us be clear. She can't sing past the first row.
Hey, Peter Parker was in the first row and he disagrees with that statement.
The acoustics, man, they're terrible. Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, real quick. Speaking of credit songs, because I know you're talking Nickelback's Hero. The credit song for Spider-Man 2, Vindicated Dashboard Confessional.
So good. Oh, man. See, I love that song, man. I can sing that song out any day. So
an absolute banger.
Yep. What was Spider-Man 3's credit? I don't even remember. I don't even know.
Yeah, no one really.
That's the reason it's the worst. That's the reason.
They shut the bed in the credit department.
Next week, we're going to do Mad Max.
Hey.
So we'll do Mad Max 1, 2, and 3. I think we're going to talk about Fury Road too, if we have time. But I don't believe it's fair to judge it as part of the Mad Max trilogy. We're doing the Mel Gibson trilogy. How about that?
Yeah.
I have never watched these films, so I'm interested. It seems like a a fault on my character as an Australian.
Yeah, you're the worst Australian ever.
But we'll see. We'll see how we go. I've watched Fury Road, and I adore that film.
Yeah, you might be a little disappointed.
High expectations.
To me, these movies are like the definition of like cult hits. Like, I think that's purely the category that they fit in.
Yeah, I wrote an essay for number 2 in uni, so I'm keen to relay all my scholarly information to you guys.
Yep,
let's do it. All right,
I'm keen.
Thank you for listening to The Good, the Bad, and the Worst. You can find us on socials at Good, Bad, Worst Podcast. If you like listening to us talk about movies, you can find us talk about video games on video on YouTube, Bonus XP Podcast. Join us there. Conan, you've got a book, The Taste of Iron.
Yep, The Taste of Iron out now on Amazon. If you're into ultra-violent horror westerns.
Especially one
my
set in
favorite
Australia.
genre.
We'll catch you next time.
Now I'm going to put some dirt.
Stop taking my lines, man. I'm going to fuck me neither.
Every time.